Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Okay, so last time I think Chandrima you asked now what is this immuno single and double, what is the difference between single and double immunodiffusion, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I'll explain you. Good evening everyone. So I'm Himanshu, PhD scholar from IIT Bombay. So today's week 7 tutorial for the immunology course. As in the previous slide you have doubt like what is this what is the difference between this single immunodiffusion and the double immunodiffusion. So basically what happen in case of single immunodiffusion, as the name also suggests, uh, only one single, that means only single. We know that immunodiffusion there are two things, one is antigen and one is antibody. So in case of single immunodiffusion, only one, either antigen or antibody will diffuse, right? Single immunodiffusion, only single thing will diffuse. So only one reactant, usually mostly in case of single immunodiffusion, this antibody will incorporate into this agar gel. So if we'll incorporate this antibody into this agar gel, it will be fixed and it will not move, right? It will be fixed in that place. So the other thing will start diffusing. So other thing, in case of immuno we know that there is a reaction between antigen and antibody. So other thing, that is antigen, will diffuse into it. So only antigen diffuses and antibody will be fixed inside the gel. So that is the case of single immunodiffusion. And mostly what is the application is, mostly it is used to measure the quantity of this antigen, that is how much antigen will be there. So that's why mostly it will be used to determine the quantity of the antigen. And how will we determine that how much antigen will be there? To compare the size of this precipitin ring, that how much precipitin ring will form. By seeing that we can quantify that either the antigen will be high or low. An example of the single immunodiffusion technique is radial immunodiffusion. Mostly we say that the radial, in which antigen will diffuse rapidly and antibody will be incorporated into the agar so that it will not move. But in case of double immunodiffusion, as the name also suggests, double, that is double immuno. In case of immuno, that is both antigen and antibody, they both will diffuse toward each other in the gel. So that's why we call it as double immunodiffusion. So the main principle, that in case of double immunodiffusion, both antigen and antibody will diffuse toward each other in the gel, and they'll move and they'll diffuse freely. Here we can see that this antigen start, as in the previous class also I mentioned that this antigen also start moving toward this antibody, and this antibody also start moving toward the antigen, and in the center where the equilibrium they reach, that this antigen and antibody concentration will be equal, then here the precipitin ring will be formed. So this is the double immunodiffusion, and mostly the plate they used tanky plates with in which this precipitin ring will form, and we can say that how much concentration of this antigen antibody will be there and specificity. Okay, got it. So moving.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So moving to the first question of like today will be the questions about the T cells development and the T cell activation and all. So and origin of the T cells. So the first question is, which of the following organ is the origin of T cell progenitors? Option A is thymus, option B is hepatocytes, option C is bone marrow, and option D is none of the above.
Option C, bone marrow.
Okay, so let's see whether. Very good, you are right that bone marrow is the right answer for this question. We know that T cell progenitor are the precursor cells, and these progenitor means progenitor that will help in the origin of that T cells. So T cell progenitors are the early precursor cells that will give rise to the mature T cells. These progenitor cells mostly they originate in the bone marrow. After the origin, the further development will happen in the thymus. So these progenitor originate in the bone marrow, which is the primary sites of hematopoiesis. We know that the primary site where the blood cell formation will be there. We call that hematopoiesis, and that is happening in the bone marrow only. So the process of making all the blood cells, including the lymphocytes, all happen inside this bone marrow. Once they formed in the bone marrow, these progenitor cells they migrate to the thymus. So the origin of these T cells happen only in the bone marrow, but the further development happen in the thymus only. So thymus is where these T cells mature, but it is not the site of origin. The site of origin is bone marrow only. And hepatocytes are the liver cells, the second option, hepatocytes, and they are not related to the T cell development. Only these options, the thymus, where the development occurs, and bone marrow, where the origin of these T cells progenitors happen. And hepatocytes is not related to the T cells development or T cell progenitors. So the you were right that the bone marrow is the right answer. Here also we can see that this is the common lymphoid progenitors, uh, which give rise to this T cells and this B cells, this common lymphoid progenitor, and we can see that the origin is, so this red area all included inside the bone marrow. See, all these things happen inside the bone marrow, and these all in the thymus, and we can see that the progenitor of these T cells is here inside the bone marrow, that is common lymphoid progenitor. Now we can see that the B cells, pro B cells and all, they happen in this bone marrow, but the all the further T cell developments happen in the thymus only. This is the no ILC. This is a pre-TCR. After the TCR signal, that is this is double positive cells, and then after that single positive T cells. First is triple negative. That is negative for all the. We know that in case of T cells, we further like in the last stage we have two kind of cells, right? CD4 and CD8 cells. That is helper cells and the cytotoxic T cells. So if there is a single receptors present, that is either the CD4 or CD8, that means their fate are determined now, that they are the helpers and they are the cytotoxic T cells. We call that cells as single positive because these are positive for only one receptor, either for CD4 positive and either for CD8 positive. Before that, if there is a no TCR signal, they will be the double positive cells. Double positive means they have both the receptors, that is CD4 positive as well as CD8 positive. And pre TCR, in which no recognition, that is negative for all the three receptors, that is CD3, CD4, and CD8. So these are the three population which the further this development, because from triple negative to double positive and double positive to single positive, and after that these will be naive T cells, which have this no ILC signals, and this are the intrinsic. Once they encounter with any antigen, then it will convert into the activated T cells. So these are the steps of the development of T cells which happen inside this thymus only. But progenitor of these T cells is inside this bone marrow, and these are for the BCR signals. BCR, that further B cells, we know that B cells help in the formation of antibodies, and here we can see that even the progenitor of these B cells occurs like present inside the bone marrow, and even the development of these B cells happen in the bone marrow. So both are present in the bone marrow, but in case of T cells, origin of these cells in bone marrow, but development stages are in the thymus only, right? So moving to the second question, immature thymocytes reside in the dash region of thymus. Option A is medulla, option B is cortex, option C is corticomedullary junction, and option D is all of the above.
Option B, cortex.
Okay, so let's see. Very good, you are right. Option B is the right answer. That is cortex. So what is this thymocytes? And immature, as the name suggests, which are not mature, not fully developed. So these thymocytes are the developing T cells, which are not fully developed T cells. And these thymocytes are developing T cells and they are present inside the thymus. Now we know that development happens in the thymus only in case of T cells. But thymus also have different regions. So the main region of this thymus is two, that is this cortex, medulla, and also there is a junction also, corticomedullary junctions. But the main region is this cortex and medulla, and if this cortex and medulla both region are separated by a junction, we called it as this corticomedullary junction, which is a borders between this cortex and medulla. So we call it as corticomedullary junctions, but the main region is this medulla and cortex. So what happened? These immature thymocytes, these are the double negative and double positive cells, because they don't have this single kind of positive cells, right? So if there is a single, then we can say that. But these are the immature T cells because they are the populations which is double negative or double positive cells. Normally, these population are mostly found in the cortex. Here they undergo the positive selection. Now they have to go for the positive selection and negative selection also. In case of positive selection, where the T cells that can recognize the self MHC molecule, they'll survive. Because if they will not able to recognize the self MHC, then these T cells can attack on our cells also, and that can cause the autoimmune disorders. So they have to undergo for the positive selection as well as negative selection. So they undergo the positive selection where the T cells which recognize this self MHC molecule, that is normal MHC molecules, and they'll not attack to that cells, only that cells will survive. So these kind of selection we called it as positive selection. Then mature thymocytes are the single positive cells. Now these are the mature. Immature are only they undergo for only one selection, that is positive selection, which can recognize the self MHC molecules. But still they are double positive cells that they have receptor for both CD4 and CD8. Now, in case of mature thymocytes, they are single positive cells. Single positive cells means either they have this CD4 positive and either they are for CD8 positive. That is, if they have this CD4 positive, they will go for the T helper cells. If they have this CD8 positive, they'll go for the cytotoxic T cells. So these mature thymocytes, which is a single positive cells, they'll move to the medulla. So in the medulla only, these will undergo the negative selection. So they'll eliminate the cells that strongly react. Again, like these are the two kind of selection. One is positive and another is negative selection. So they'll also eliminate those T cells which strongly, like if they'll strongly, I mean they have to react with the MHC molecules, and they have to say that yeah, because self antigen means like our body antigen. If they'll strongly react with that, that means that immune reaction will happens, and that can go more vigorous because they'll activate more T cells. So they'll start attacking on our body. For that, they have to undergo for negative selection also. In that, that will ensure that they will not bind with the self antigen very strongly. So these process happen in the medulla. But in the question they ask that immature thymocyte reside in the where this thymocyte immature thymocytes, which is a like double negative or the double positive cells, mostly they found in this cortex region. And after that, this mature thymocytes, which ensures now that they have a single positive cells, and they'll go undergo for the negative selection that happen in the medulla only. So immature thymocytes mostly reside in the cortex region, but mature thymocytes mostly they reside in the medulla region of this thymus. So you were right. So moving here also the process, this is the bone marrow. As we know that this origin of these cells, both TCR and all, happen in the bone marrow. Then it will go for this cortex region. This is the cortex and this is the medulla region of this thymus. Here this TCR beta rearrangement, beta selection will be there, and alpha rearrangement, and then they'll death after the positive selection which react with the self antigen self MHC molecule. They'll go for the death by neglect. If they undergo and survive, then they'll go for this positive selection. After that, lineage commitment will be there, whether they have to go for the T helper cell or T suppressor cells or T regulator cells. That will happen once they'll pass this negative selection. Then these we called it as mature T cells, and these happen inside this medulla only. So in this way, this T cells process happens inside the cortex and medulla, and their selection will happen. And then the fate will determine whether they'll go undergo the T helper and T regulator or T cytotoxic cells once they clear this positive and negative selections. So moving to the third question, like which one of the following developmental stages of T cell first expresses the pre-TCR?
Option D.
Okay, double negative T cells. So very good, you are right. That is double negative. We know that, as I in the earlier slide I mentioned, that the bone marrow, which is the progenitors, then they migrate to the thymus. After that, double negative stage will be there, which is negative for both, and then they subdivided into the D in double negative one, two, and three, which is a critical point selection. In the first, the T cell progenitor enter the thymus and no TCR rearrangement happens. So these are the stage TN2 which begins this rearrangement start, and these are the pre like critical checkpoint, and here the pre TCR is first expressed. So these are the double negative third cells where the first pre TCR is happens. After that, if successful survive, then only it will go for the DN4 stage. If it will not, then it will go for the death process. So DN4 is where the cell proliferate, and DN4 also called, once the cells will proliferate and prepare to express the CD4, then it will go for the DP stage, that is the double positive stage, that is CD4 and CD4. Now they express both the CD4 and CD8. Complete functional TCR alpha beta will be there. Then selection happens, positive and negative selections, positive in the cortex and negative in the medulla. As in the previous question, I mentioned what is this positive selection where they recognize the self MHC molecules, and negative they will not strongly bind to the self antigen. So that will delete it out, right? So once this sorry. So once these selection happens, and after that single positive stage will come where they commit only to the one lineages, that is met, where they commit. And we know that commit happens how, like if this CD for positive T cells recognize the MHC2, then they'll undergo for the helper T cells, and if it will recognize the MHC1, then it will undergo for the cytotoxic T cells. When this Now once this mature self-tolerance MHC restricted naive T cells, after that it will leave the thymus and it will go for the peripheral tissue. Here also we can see that these are the periphery regions. Once they are committed to their the T regulatory and T, they'll leave this medulla region and they'll go to the periphery regions where they react with antigen and see like whether they convert it into the active T cells. So in this way, there like they exit to the peripheral tissue. There they circulate inside the blood and lymphoid organs, so that they can ready now, because now they are ready, now they are committed to their receptors, now they are ready to encounter with the foreign antigens. So after that they'll convert this, once they encounter with this foreign antigen, now then after that these naive T cells converted into the mature T cells. So the here in the question they asked like which of the following developmental stages first expresses this pre-TCR, that is double negative 3 cells, we can see that. So you were right that these are the stage critical checkpoint for the beta selection DN3, where this pre-TCR means that is T cell receptor is first time expressed. So these are the stage where this pre-TCR will express. So now moving to the fourth question, this gamma delta T cells are a minority population of T cells and which lack the which receptor? Option A is CD4, option B is CD8, option C is CD4 and CD8, option D is CD3, CD4 and CD8.
Option D.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then let's see. So it's okay, but C is the right answer. Option C you said, right? So C is the right answer. Mostly, जो T cells in humans are alpha beta cells. We know that, and these are the minor. There are two kinds of population in T cells. One is alpha beta, and another one is gamma delta. So here these are divided into minority and majority. Mostly, majority of the cells are the alpha beta T type cells. They usually they express this CD4. Either they express this CD8, but these are the very minor population gamma T cells, about like 1 to 5% of the T cells, which present in the peripheral blood, or mostly in case of mucosal tissues, these are present in very high amount. So what are these? Here maybe you missed this. Here they mention which lack. So they lack both CD4 and CD8. So these gamma delta T population, they express these T cell receptors made of this gamma delta chains instead of alpha and beta, because alpha and beta chains are the most majority of the population, they have this alpha beta, because they don't require this. Maybe in second class I mentioned that the gamma and delta population are those which can directly go and encounter with the antigens. They don't require any MHC like alpha beta T cells. So they don't require any antigen presentation by the MHC. Unlike this alpha beta T cells, they can directly recognize the antigens. Why? Because they don't have any these kind of receptor. Neither neither they have the CD4 nor this CD8. So they lack this both of the receptors, that is double negative, and we call this population is gamma and delta cells. However, in some cases it happens like they have this CD8, but in rare cases. So if like that may be the contradictory, then you may be the right that CD8 in some it will be present in some subsets. But if option is C also there, that is CD4 and CD8, then we go for this CD4 and CD8, because these are the minority population. We know that very few population have this gamma delta T, but inside that mostly we go for which lack this all the two receptors. Very few population they have the CD8, but in the option if it mentioned that they lack CD4 and CD8, then we'll go for this C option only, that is CD4 and CD8. But however in subset, yeah, you're right also that your option you can contradict that in some population CD8 is there, but that is in the some subset only. but mostly we go for that they have lack both the like they lack both the receptors. One more thing, that if they don't have the CD4 and CD8, then what receptors are present? So in case of this gamma and delta, they have this another receptor, that is CD3. So they express this CD3, which is a part of this TCR complex, and that is required for the antigen counteraction and the recognition of that antigen. So that's why, because of the presence of the CD3 receptors, they go and directly bind to that antigen, and they can uh, start their reaction without any MHC recognition. Right. So moving to the next question, in which of the following order rearrangement of T cell receptor take place? Option A is beta chain rearrangement followed by a alpha chain rearrangement. Option B is alpha and beta chain rearrangement occurs simultaneously. Option C is alpha chain rearrangement followed by the gamma chain rearrangement. Option D is alpha chain rearrangement followed by the beta chain rearrangement.
Ma'am, option A, beta chain rearrangement followed by alpha chain rearrangement.
Okay, so anyone else? Okay, then let's see the right answer. Very good, you are right. Option A is the right answer, that is beta chain rearrangement followed by the alpha chain rearrangement. So we know that these T receptors, um, so we know that this TCR has this two chains. One is this alpha chain, another one is this beta chain, and that is these chains are analogous to the light and heavy chain arrangement in B cells. So what happens? How this rearrangement? This TCR beta chain rearrangement comes first as in the question, and it happens during the double negative 2 stage and DN3 stage of this thymocyte development. If these rearrangement will be successful, then only this beta chain pair with this alpha chain, that is pre T alpha, and then they'll form this pre TCR, that is pre T cell receptor. And this checkpoint is only we called it as beta selection, where they can recognize this MHC molecule, right? Then only we can see that if it will recognize, that means it's called the beta selection or beta selection. This checkpoint is called the beta selection. Once it will pass this checkpoint, then they'll proliferate and they'll move to the next stage. And after this beta chain rearrangement, it will go for the alpha chain rearrangement, and it occurs at the double positive stage, which is positive for both the receptors CD4 and CD8. So once rearranged, these alpha chain pairs now with the beta chain, and they'll form the complete TCR alpha beta receptors. So here only the pre-TCR have only this alpha rearrangement. When this beta rearrangement will also happens, then they'll form the complete TCR alpha beta. After that, it will go for the positive and negative selection. Not here, sorry. Hey, after this, it will go for the positive and negative selection, so that it will ensure, because if it will go here during the alpha only, whether they'll able to recognize the MHC or not, then they will not recognize and they'll die. After only this pre TCR stage, once they have this complete alpha part and also this beta rearrangement, then only they'll be able to recognize this self MHC and not the self antigens, which is after the alpha and beta rearrangement. Then only this functional TCR alpha beta will go for the positive and negative selection, so that they can ensure whether they can recognize this self MHC molecule of the normal cells, and also they will not attack or not strongly bind with the self antigen of our own body. We call it as negative selection, that it will not bind with that too strongly. So in the question they mention that how this arrangement happens. As we saw, you were right that the first this beta chain arrangement happens, followed by this alpha chain rearrangement. Moving to the next question, the outcome of positive and negative selection is the generation of a mature conventional T cell repertoire, that is option A is MHC restricted, option B is self tolerant, option C is both A and B, and option D is none of the above.
Option C, both A and B.
Okay, both A and B. So you're right, both A and B. When this immature thymocytes in the cortex and that is you're right that option C, that is MHC restricted and self tolerant. So why, what is the outcome of this positive and negative selection? We know which happens during the developmental stages of this T cells, right? So why this happens? What is the need for this? What is the outcome? As in the earlier slides also I mentioned, we know that immature thymocytes in the cortex and medulla express their newly formed TCR and they undergo these two checkpoints, because we know that in the cortex and medulla it happens, this positive and negative selection. So positive selection, we know that it happens in the cortex. In the previous slide also I mentioned, where they recognize the self MHC molecules. If they can't recognize their self MHC molecule, class 1 or class 2, then it will die and we call it as positive selection. So that process is MHC restricted, right? This ensure that the surviving T cells are MHC restricted. MHC restricted means they can able to recognize this self MHC, right? So they are restricted to this MHC, major histocompatibility complex. So they can only respond to antigen presented on the self MHC, right? So these kind of selection is important for the MHC restricted, that is the positive selection during the generation of this mature T cells. Then what is this for negative selection? Which, and we know that negative selection, as in the figure also, we saw that negative selection which happens in the medulla, it ensure that if it will bind too strongly to the self antigen, they are deleted. They'll go for the death. They will not further go outside the medulla to the periphery region, right? So they will prevent the survival of autoreactive T cells. So if it will bind more strongly, then it will activate the immune system and they can react to our body only. That then, but we don't want, we want self tolerant, that they can tolerate ourselves, they will not attack to our body, they will not attack to our body tissues, right? We have to ensure for that it will undergo for the negative selection, and they'll prevent the survival of autoreactive T cells which will not react with the own self antigens. They will they will delete that cells and they'll send those cells for the apoptosis. Only the cells which will not react, which will be not autoreactive, that population will only survive. So these selection, negative selection, will ensure that these mature T cells are the self tolerance, that is negative selection ensure this, they will be the self tolerant, that they are tolerating ourselves, right? They will not attack to our body tissues. So here also they don't attack the body own tissue, that is our tissue. So that is the outcome. So you were right, very good. MHC restricted in self tolerance is the outcome of this positive and negative selection. Moving to the next question, unlike the innate immune responses, adaptive immune responses are initiated in secondary lymphoid organs. However, the innate immune response to an infection in a tissue has a very vital role in inducing T cell responses in the nearest lymph node by activating tissue dendritic cells and inducing their migration to the lymph node. The above statement is option A is true, or whether it's a false statement. Option B is false.
True.
Okay, so you are right. Very good. This is statement as the true. We know that innate immunity, here innate and adaptive. We know that. What is the difference between innate and adaptive? Innate is body immediate is defense present at the site of infection. Innate, we know that the lysozyme, like which is the very first line of defense. And adaptive, mostly the cells undergo the T and B cells. The process which have the involvement of this T and B cells, we call it adaptive immune. The second, and mostly they require this antigen present, but here the defense at the site of infection, right? So adaptive immune, unlike this innate immune response, these adaptive immune response are initiated in the secondary lymphoid organ. That is right, because they need the secondary lymphoid organ like lymph node and spleen, but they don't need innate an immune response because they directly act on it. Like the tears have this lysozyme enzymes in our eyes, and also our skin, they don't need any secondary lymphoid organs, but these adaptive immunity which involve the T and B cells, they are initiated in the secondary lymphoid organs. So this is right. Next is, however, the innate immune response has a very pivotal role in inducing this nearest by activating the dendritic T cells. We know that dendritic cells are the first activated by the innate immune cells. We know that, right? These innate immune cells and the dendritic T cells, now these dendritic T cells will activate these T cells. So in this way, it happens that this is the innate immune system, and innate immune system, how it connect to the adaptive immune system through this APCs. APCs means antigen presenting cells, and one of these APCs dendritic cells. So these adaptive immune system connect to this innate immune system through this dendritic. So here also they mention that, however, this innate immune response to an infection also have this very role in inducing the T cell response by activating. And this is right because we know that these dendritic T cells first activated by this innate immune signals only. Like they have this PAM and the cytokines which is released by the innate immune cells only. That the cytokines, we know that it's part of this innate, and the PAM molecules, which is released by this pathogen associated molecular partners, the all signals how they will reach to the T cell activation, they'll reach to this dendritic cells, because once they activated, this dendritic cells migrate to the lymph node where they present this antigen to this naive T cells. Once they present this to the naive T cells, then they convert this naive T cells into the mature T cells, and then the adaptive immune response start playing their roles so that they can kick out that antigens from our body, and they'll initiate this adaptive immune response. So this innate immune response is also very essential for kick starting the adaptive immunity in lymph nodes, right? So this is the right statement. You were right. Very good. So moving to the next question. When macrophages in the lung are infected with an intracellular bacterium such as Mycobacterium tuberculosis, they are activated by the interaction of their pattern recognition receptors with the microbes. These activated macrophages will then, option A is, migrate to the marginal sinus of the draining lymph node to activate naive CD4 T cells. Option B is, increase their phagocytic properties to squelch dead and dying neighboring cells. Option C is, migrate to the red pulp of the spleen where they will remove immune complexes from the circulation. Option D is, upregulate MHC class 2 and B7 molecules to amplify CD4 T cell response in the lung.
Option A.
Okay, so they'll migrate to the marginal sinus. Anyone else? Okay, let's see the right answer. So D is the right answer. It's okay, but we'll see that how. Uh, so you mentioned that option E, migrate to the marginal sinus of the lymph node to activate naive CD4 cells. So these activated macrophages, they increase this MHC2 expression first. They will not migrate to the marginal sinus of this lymph node macrophages, because they will increase the, instead of this, it will increase the MHC molecule expression. So they will be go for the better antigen presentation. Further, they will also amplify this signal B7 and CD80 and CD80 and 86, which is essential for T cell activation. And also they will allow to interact with the CD4 T cells, not the naive T cells. It will not, with affected CD4 T cells, it will interact, which enhances the immune response in lung tissues, because this is the intracellular. So it will not activate the naive T cells. Second is it increase their phagocytic properties to quench TIP. No, it will not, because these macrophages are present in the lung. These are the not normal macrophages, right? Which will increase. It can't increase. Migrate to the red pulp of the spleen, where they will remove. It will not migrate to the spleen. It just upregulate this expression of this, because they are already infected, and this is kind of intracellular bacteria. If it is an extracellular, in that case that macrophages, matlab, like normal macrophages, they can migrate to the marginal sinus and they can activate the CD4 naive T cells. But here the macrophages which is present in the lungs, and they are infected with this bacteria, mycobacterium tuberculosis. So it's kind of intracellular macrobacterium. So in that case, what this activated macrophages will do, they'll upregulate the MHC class 2 and also the B7 molecules, so that it can further amplify the CD4 T cell response in the lung, because it's a tissue specific, and also it's an intracellular bacteria which is normally present, right? So they are infected. So that's why these are the not normal macrophages. These are the macrophages which live in the lungs. So it can't go outside and will activate the CD4. So the only thing that it will upregulate the MHC class 2 and also this B7 molecules, so that they can amplify this T cell response in the lung, right? If these, instead of this intracellular bacterium, this will be the normal, then it, the option A will be the right. But here the intracellular bacterium which, and also the macrophages which is in the lung, so that's why this option D is the right answer, right? So moving to the next question, this naive T cell scan the dendritic cells in the cortical region of the lymph node as they migrate. Right, they will scan the dendritic cells in the cortical region. The initial encounter with the dendritic cells is mediated by interaction between the TCR and the peptide MHC complexes on the dendritic cells. The above statement is true or false. Option A is true and option B is false. Sorry.
True.
Okay. So here, the one information you are missing, that this statement is true, but here the first thing is the initial encounter. So these naive T cells scan the dendritic T cells in the cortical region. of the lymph node as they migrate. So the initial encounter with the dendritic cells is mediated by the interaction between the TCR and peptide on the dendritic cells. Here, before that, this is not the very first encounter of these dendritic cells. The first encounter are very non-specific addition events. So sometimes people will not discuss about this event and they skip this information. Mostly in the like previous lecture also I also didn't mention this. This is the first initial encounters and we know that these will recognize this. But before that also the very first encounter of this T cell is this one. When this naive T cell first encounter this dendritic T cells, the initial interactions are very non-specific addition events. So that non-specific addition event is the first encounter of T cells with the T cells, which is mediated by the molecules LFA1 on the T cells binding to this ICAM1 on dendritic T cells on cells. So the first encounter is not this peptide and MHC. Direct this before this peptide and MHC molecules, there is one more interaction which is previous to that interaction. These interaction we know that this happens, right? And because of these they will activate the cells and they will convert these naive T cells into the mature T cells and they'll eliminate the antigen, we know that, and this is the important one also. But before that also there is an infection. Before the starting of these infections, these dendritic cells come, these naive T cells come, they interact, and which is a kind of non-specific adhesion events. There is a receptors on the T cells that is LFA1, and there is a receptor ICAM1 on the dendritic cells. So these are the adhesion kind of thing which happens before this main interaction, before this main peptide MHC complex interaction. These are the loose adhesion. They'll allow the T cells to scan whether this dendritic cell surface have this correct antigen or not. So this is kind of non-specific, just to see. So that after that these interaction happens, then these T cells will recognize the peptide MHC molecules and it will stabilize the activation. If they don't have this correct antigen and they have like own body, then they will not go for the further reactions. So before that they have this kind of interaction non-specific addition events which is mediated by this LFA1 on T cells and this ICAM on one dendritic C cells. So that's why this statement is false, because they mention that the initial encounters is mediated by this T cell and peptide. It is not that this is the main one. Before that, also the initial encounter, if we know if it's there, then the initial encounter is this LFA1 and ICAM1 interaction, right? So moving to the next last question of this class, that the cytotoxic effector T cells also produce inflammatory cytokines such as IFN gamma and TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha, when their T cell receptor recognize peptide MHC on a target cells. One effect of this cytokine secretion is to enhance the ability of CD8 effector T cells to recognize and kill other infected cells in the nearby vicinity. These enhanced activity is due to option A is the increased production of perforin and granzyme by CD8 cells. Option B is the upregulation of MHC class 1 protein expression by IFN gamma. Option C is the ability of TNF alpha to induce vascular leakage. Option D is the effect of IFN gamma to enhance viral replication, leading to increased viral antigen presentation.
Option D.
Okay. It's okay. So, but B is the right answer here. Like how? Here, option B is the upregulation of MHC class 1 protein expression. No, there will be no upregulation of this MHC class 1. They will not increase the MHC class 1 protein as it will remain same. IF and gamma will not increase this. So T and alpha they can upregulate the MHC class 1, but IF and gamma will not because they have this inflammatory kind of activities. So they will increase the inflammation and all. So first see like what is the difference between this IF and gamma and TNF alpha. So basically this interferon gamma they activate the macrophages and they will interferon gamma will upregulate this MHC class 1 protein. No, they'll upregulate the MHC class 1 and 2 both. Here also they can. But wait, the cytotoxic affected T cells also produce inflammatory cytokines, that is IFN gamma and TNF alpha. When their T cell receptor recognize the peptide amidst target cells, one effect of this cytokine secretion is to enhance the ability of CD8 affected T cells to recognize and kill other infected cells in the nearby vicinity. The enhanced activity is due to. Okay, you mentioned option B, yeah, right?
No, ma'am. Option D.
Okay, okay. The effect of IFN gamma to enhance viral application leading to increased viral antigen presentation. IFN gamma to enhance the viral replication. Oh wait, so the enhance activity, one effect of science is to enhance the ability of CD8 T cells to recognize and kill other infected. The enhance activity is due to. So these IFN gamma they will viral replication they will not enhance the viral replication because this IFN gamma and TNF alpha are our own inflammatory cytokines. That's true. If they will help in the viral replication, then it will be problematic for our immune system also. If they will enhance this viral application and they will increase this viral antigen presentation, they will not increase the viral replication. Surely they will increase this viral antigen presentation, but not by through this viral replication, because otherwise it will be problematic, right? First is the increased production of perforin in granazyme by CD8 cells. No, they will not increase the production of perforin. The amount of the perforin and granazyme by CD8 cells that will remain same, because CD8 will not increase their, because if they are releasing the perforin granazyme once after the antigen recognition, they will release the same amount of perforin and granazyme. So the enhanced activity will is not because of this also, because they will not increase. Next is the upregulation MHC class 1 protein expressed by the FN gamma. I think MHC2, but here, yeah, MHC class 1 also they upregulate. So that's why maybe the right answer. Where third, we'll see the ability of TNF alpha to induce the vascular leakage. Tumor necrosis factor alpha to induce. If they will increase, then they will increase the inflammation factors only, not the this enhanced activity. So that's why maybe this option B is the right answer, because this interferon gamma they activates the macrophages, and also they will upregulate the class 1 also, right? Not only 2, they increase this MHC class 1 also. So they will be the better antigen presentation, and they inhibit this viral infection. Also, they promotes the Th1 cells differentiation. Then what is this cytokine TNF, that is tumor necrosis factor alpha will do? They will promote the inflammation, right? Here the ability of TNF to induce vascular leakage? No, they will increase this inflammation only and activates the endothelium so that they can migrate. Also, this TNF alpha work with the IFN gamma to activate the macrophages. If this TNF alpha will release in high amount, they can cause this septic shock and cachexia. So this is the same. So that's why maybe the right answer is this option B, because they will not increase the amount of this perforin in granzyme. We know that that will remain same by the series itself. It will not like they will enhance the activity by releasing this more perforin and granzyme, because they will kill the cells. They will not increase the specificity and enhance the activity of any. And next is the ability of TN alpha to induce vascular leakage. If it will induce the vascular leakage, then it will increase the inflammation only. It will not enhance the activity, right? To binding with the, like, to recognize and killing this affected cells, right? It will not enhance that ability. It will increase only the inflammation. Even if it increase this vascular leakage, it will increase the inflammation, not that enhance activity of recognition and killing, right? Next is the effect of IFN alpha gamma to enhance. First, IFN gamma, that is interferon gamma, they can increase the viral antigen presentation. That is right, they will increase this viral antigen presentation, but not by the viral replication. If they will enhance the viral replication, then it will be problematic for body, right? Because they are hitting there. So the viral antigen presentation, how they increases by upregulation of this MHC class 1 proteins, right? And also MHC class 2. But here in this, they mentioned that the virus, where is this? There is T cells, CD8 cells. As we know that CD8 cells will happen in case of viral, right? And here the only MHC which take into account is MHC class 1, not MHC class 2. So that's why the upregulation of this MHC class 1 protein expression by IFN gamma. Even here they mention the upregulation of MHC class 2, that also will be the wrong answer, because here already they mentioned that this cytotoxic T cell, that is CD8, that means they are uh, talking about the virus infection, right? So the right answer is the upregulation of this MHC class 1 protein expression by FN gamma, that will help enhance this ability to recognize and killing the infected cells by the virus in the nearby vicinity, right? Got it? Any doubt? Any doubt?